The Final One Standing by William Hill on Off the Ball. Download the app and play today. 18 plus gamblingcare.ie.
Very welcome along. It is Final One Standing here on Off the Ball. The Premier League season is back. It's Christmas Day, folks. We can all get excited again for football returning across the pond. Of course, we've had League of Ireland action over the last number of months. Here, the Final One Standing on Off the Ball is brought to you by William Hill. Download the app and play it today. Over 18s only. See gamblingcare.ie. And we do have our own Final One Standing game that's ongoing and will be ongoing hopefully across the course of the season, unless someone wins very early and might have to restart again. But you can get involved using the code Off the Ball. There's a link on all of our social channels, or indeed you can get the William Hill app as well and use the code Off the Ball to sign up to the Final One Standing Off the Ball League. Delighted to have in studio for this episode Mick McCarthy. How are things, Mick?
Hi, Shane.
And Eve Conway. Eve, how are things?
Hi, I'm good.
We're excited. We're buzzing. Can't wait for the season, I presume. I said Christmas Day, and I think that sums it up.
But it seems to have come around very quickly again.
It has, isn't it? It's like football never left because it didn't.
Yeah, well, okay, we'll tie ourselves in knots with the whole domestic football versus cross-channel football. I feel like it's been the longest summer of no English football in a long time. Now, it's probably because I paid zero attention, and I mean zero attention to the Club World Cup. But it was nice to have a bit of an off-season, I think. And it's like, you know, the season petered out somewhat, I would say, last year. There was no real relegation fight. There was a Champions League fight that I was quite invested in, but not everybody worries too much about that. And then there was a proper summer, no tournaments, and yeah, ready to go now. Then suddenly you look at all the teams and you realise that all of the big teams have completely transformed over the summer. You know, and it's like it's really exciting because you're literally from tonight on just watching new teams and the new eras and so on, and who triumphs and who fails.
Do you get involved in all the transfer hype, Eve?
I feel like I tried to get involved at the beginning of every summer, and then knowing that nothing's going to happen at Spurs. I'm a Tottenham fan for context until the last day of the season, where it's like, we couldn't get Eze, guys, but we tried really hard. So yeah, you're seeing these teams that are transforming, and I think Liverpool maybe more than most the players they brought in. United have gone in some really exciting players, and you're kind of looking around and it's getting scary because all the people, like United especially, I think if you look at the season that Spurs had last would be the direct comparison. They seem to be strengthening a bit more than Tottenham are.
I wonder if we're going to see more of that. You know, like the teams like Tottenham last year who went all out for the Europa League towards the end. Manchester United did the same. Fell at the final hurdle. Like the European football, there's just so many more games now as well, Mick, and obviously with the Club World Cup thrown into the mix for the likes of Chelsea and Man City, it adds tiredness to the legs, and squads are going to have to be a bit deeper, let's just say.
Yeah, I think so. Not Manchester United though.
No. Well,
no. Working out, I think maximum 51 games they can play this season if they get to both cup finals,
which is exactly what they needed probably.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what they needed.
It's what worked. It's what worked for Spurs last season. We didn't have any European football, we crashed out of the cups pretty early. You know, we can concentrate on the Europa League. So you're kind of sacrificing the Premier League, which is why when people have their predictions for Spurs finishing quite low down next season, it's like, yeah, well, we gave up on the league about mid-December last year.
Do you think that's true, though?
Yeah, 100%.
I don't buy it, and I don't buy it for Manchester United either. I think the idea that they were comfortable finishing in 17th position or United in 15th just doesn't wash with me. I just think that whatever they were doing wasn't clicking. I think Spurs, and it's no offence, like this is like, you know, this is nothing to do with like having an argument with a fan or anything like that. This is just my genuine objective thought, is that like they got a very, very nice run through the Europa League, including in the final. They met the right team at every round, and they got through, and fair enough. And Ange was a kind of a cup manager anyway, you know, or is a cup manager. I suppose he is still a manager even if he doesn't have a club. And Spurs' everyday form, I just think the idea that people have them kind of like, you know, we did a preview last night and Steve-O had them finishing above Arsenal, and just there's general optimism around. I'm surprised that you're so negative on them, and I do think that the two big signings that they have made so far, and obviously they need a couple more, are really, really good ones, you know, and I think that they're like borderline transformative, but you need about 4, and that team probably needs about 7 or 8.
I think, yeah, ignoring the results on Wednesday in a Super Cup final, I think the team it was a great performance. They looked coherent. They Thomas Frank is going to play a very different system to Ange. As somebody said during the week, we might have won that game with Ange, but it would have been a lot more stressful and a lot less kind of controlled. I like what I saw. I don't want to get too optimistic because we did finish, 17th.
Also, if Thomas Frank bangs out quotes like he did after the match the other day, what did he say? The operation, it was like a special operation in medical terms. The operation succeeded, but the patient died. If he continues along that vein, I mean, his point was that they played well, but didn't quite get over the line. But I
think a lot of people will have Spurs week 1 and final one standing.
Yeah,
including me.
Yeah.
And ironically, not me.
Yeah, the Spurs fan, you're saving it for one of the big games. Yeah, in fairness. Let's bring in Lee Phelps from William Hill. How are things, Lee? Hope you're keeping well.
Yeah, really good. Just been listening to you guys getting excited about it. Same here. I mean, it's like there's a lot of work that goes into the start of a Premier League season. It'd be nice just to be a fan and enjoy it. You guys probably the same, but can't wait to get it all up and running. Like you guys have just mentioned, I mean, our free-to-play game, Final One Standing, has just kind of taken over our work lives, as you might imagine. So exciting to be involved in it. The numbers are fantastic. Over 250,000 players in the game going into the Saturday. So deadline is 12:30 rather than the Liverpool game tonight. We left that one out for the first week. So yeah, absolutely buzzing for it. Can't wait.
I like the fact that you only have to pick a team to win as well. It takes the pressure off. Last season, of course, we were picking exact score lines and there was arguments. There'll obviously still be arguments this year.
The worry is, you say you just have to pick a team to win. Like the amount of people I've spoken to have said, it's quite a tough week, isn't it? It's always going to be a tough week. Tottenham are at home to Burnley. Chelsea have got Palace. Man City are at Wolves. You should be, we'd be picking these. If it was an ACCA, you'd just be putting them in, wouldn't you? Like, that'll win. When you've got to pick one, though, I think it's suddenly you start to think of every possible thing that could go wrong with that pick. Like you mentioned Tottenham there, nearly 30% of all players have picked Tottenham for this week for their first pick. I was wondering, I haven't by the way, but I was wondering when we were watching them against PSG, people would have been like, yeah, good pick. And then suddenly, when the wheels fell off a little bit at the end, everyone was like, they've gone through a hard 90 minutes plus penalty shootout. Is that the pick now? But everyone's still with them. Yeah, Tottenham are the most popular pick of all this weekend.
Yeah, it's a nasty one because obviously Man City, as you say, up against Wolves, but then it's at Molineux and it's hard to know what Wolves will see. And Palace, they're away to Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, although they're flying high after that Community Shield win. They'll be excited and buzzed for the start of the season. So it's a difficult enough week. I can see why 30% have picked Tottenham, basically.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so can we. They're the shortest price on the day if you're just looking at it from a purely betting point of view. So, and look, they should go and do it. Burnley, you wouldn't expect them to be picking points up, away from home too often this season. But you don't know, do you? The other thing is the unknown of the opening day of the season. At least Tottenham have got a proper competitive match under their belts. We all know through working in football for years and years, you can't take too much, notice of pre-season friendlies, we're always told. But I guess, Palace and Tottenham were the two teams who've had something that is beyond a pre-season friendly. It's not quite, fully competitive, but it's as close as you're going to get. Palace playing Liverpool, obviously, and getting the win in the end, and Tottenham playing PSG. They're significant tests, aren't they? But I caught you. What's everyone going for in the studio then? You're going Tottenham?
Yeah, I've got Spurs as well. Yeah.
I've got Spurs also.
I don't, because as a Spurs fan, I know that we're playing City after Burnley, and that's exactly the type of run of fixtures where we would lose against Burnley and then win against City. I've gone, because I know that if you can't pick a team twice, so I said I'm going to save maybe some of the bigger teams for later on, and I've actually gone for Leeds.
Wow.
Which is, well, listen, I have my arguments for this, because they're going to pick up, they're not, I think Leeds will stay up this season. I don't see them being, as I think Wolves are in a bad place. I don't see the three promoted sides instantly going back down. I don't think that's happened, 2 years in a row now? Yeah. The reason I've gone for Leeds is because I saw them at the Aviva against AC Milan. I think it's going to be the same starting 11. They looked pretty solid. I like the look of their new midfielder, Stash. He was really good. I think Everton might get their first win of the season in their new stadium. I don't think they're going to do it away from home.
I like the logic. I've
taken a little bit of a risk.
And you've got, I know it's a cliche, but you've got Monday night, first game of the Premier League season at Elland Road. Anyone who has been to Elland Road will know that it is a unbelievable place. on those kind of nights, the crowd will be going crazy. So they have effectively got like a 12th man there. But no, I get the pick completely. I mean, I know that the Grealish signing for Everton is really interesting. It might take a little time for that to kind of come to fruition. I think he'll change Everton, to be honest. I think, making him the focus of that team can only do them good. But yeah, I get your point. I mean, I'm saying, wow, I've gone Brighton first game.
Right.
Brighton to beat Fulham. I think Brighton could be up there amongst the kind of top 6 this season. I know they're always kind of around that kind of area through the season. I think they could do really well this season. And I think Fulham are one of those teams that you can kind of easily get a home result against them. I think both teams will score in the game. They were top and second in the both teams to score league in the Premier League last season. So I might be a bit nervy, but I wanted to play this game and keep some of the big guns till a little bit later on. So I need to get through the first week, basically, is what I'm saying. So Brighton to beat Fulham would be mine. The draw is a risk, and I think the draw is a risk with Leeds Everton. And that's the kicker here, isn't it? You've got to win. A draw or a loss is no good. You're out. So I think, similar reasons. I want to go for a team who I think are a good favourite. They're odds on Brighton to beat Fulham, 10-11, and I think they'll get the job done. Might be a bit of squeaky bum time for me during the match. But yeah, most people have gone Tottenham. Next most popular is Man City, and next most popular is Chelsea after that. So not surprisingly, because they are Tottenham are 4-11. Man City are 4-9 at Wolves, and Chelsea are 8-13 at home to Crystal Palace. But yeah, I know you guys have been pushing the private league, the off the ball league. Great to get involved in that, and obviously the main game. €500,000 up for grabs for whoever gets to the end. That'll be shared out if there are multiple people at the end. But we're fascinated to see how it pans out over the next I don't know, 2 months probably, maybe 3 months.
Mm-hmm. Lee, I think if I was picking in this game in the middle of last season, this round of fixtures, I'd be going for Arsenal against Manchester United. And I was tempted this week as well, I have to say, but I suppose I'm just scared off by the general sense that it's Manchester United and it's a new season. Have you sensed that optimism in the market generally for United this year, even though we don't really know what it's based on?
Yeah, definitely. In the title betting, top 4, top 5, top 6, they've been backed. I mean, part of that is price. I think, they were a decent price to win the title. They were 33-1 at one point, and we've seen money for them. Third most popular team in that market, by the way. They're now 22-1. Liverpool took the majority of the bets, then Chelsea, and then Man United, and then Arsenal, then Man City, and get this, then Leeds, and then Tottenham, by the way. Leeds, bigger, more money on Leeds to win the title than Tottenham this season. So, yeah, there is, and I think, like I say, it's price, but it's also the fact that they have signed players who can make a difference to the team. And I guess there's probably something in the psyche of football fans and punters thinking, they can't be as bad as last year. This will tell us a lot, won't it? The 12-5 to beat Arsenal, the draw is exactly the same price. I think that's a live play in this match. Arsenal 11-10, but I mean, look how Arsenal have strengthened. I mean, that you would expect, like you said, I agree with your point about last season. Well, if we take that last season's form and what we would have done then and move it to now, Arsenal have signed better players than Manchester United. So really, I think Arsenal at 11-10 odds against probably is a decent price, to be honest. I think we wouldn't have been getting Arsenal odds against at this point that you were talking about last season. So 11-10 might be a decent way. And I think there were a couple on Sunday. I think Forest at home to Brentford, their odds against Forest 21-20, only just. But I think it's an interesting price for a team who obviously were very good last season. Brentford have been kind of ripped apart, haven't they? Really. So you're looking at like Chelsea at 8-13, which again I think is fair at home to Palace. 21-20 Forest, 11-10 Arsenal. That trebles just under 6-1 for the three of those just to win. And that wouldn't be a huge surprise to see those three results come in, would it?
No, definitely not. Some fascinating fixtures, yeah, as you said. So those games, Liverpool versus Bournemouth, the opening fixture tonight, 8 p.m. Villa Newcastle is the early kickoff, 12:30 tomorrow. The 3 o'clock games tomorrow, Saturday, Brighton Fulham, Sunderland versus West Ham, Spurs against Burnley, and at Molineux at 5:30, Wolves home to Manchester City. And then on Sunday, Two 2 o'clock games. Chelsea at home to Palace, and Forest, as we said, home to Brentford. Forest-Brentford is our first live and exclusive commentary game on Off the Ball on News Talk this Sunday. And then followed also on Off the Ball on News Talk, Manchester United versus Arsenal, we mentioned, 4:30. And then Monday Night Football, 8 p.m, Leeds versus Everton. As we said, people have until 8 p.m. this evening using that code Off the Ball to sign up to the Off the Ball final one standing, I should say. Lee, anything else you're looking forward to this weekend?
Yeah, Aston Villa Newcastle. I mean, that's the 12:30 deadline for the full game. The 500,000 euro jackpot is the deadline to get your picks in for that. Obviously, you get a Liverpool game in the Off the Ball League as well. The Aston Villa Newcastle game, I think that's fascinating. Villa are 6-5, just a touch of odds against the team in Newcastle, who we know have had a torrid summer. They're 2-1, 13-5 the draw. Aston Villa have got a cracking home record, 21 unbeaten. They've got a really good home record against Newcastle as well. I think that 6-5 might be good. I can't announce it now. It doesn't go live until 8 p.m. tonight, but there's a really, really interesting epic odds on that 12:30 game on Saturday as well.
Okay. Lee, thank you very much for now, Lee Fabs. We'll chat to you again soon.
Thanks a lot, guys. Good luck.
Great stuff. Villa fan in the corner, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling all right, actually. It's been a quiet summer. I presume the Jacob Ramsey deal won't go through in time for him to play tomorrow. In fact, you would imagine it certainly won't. It's been one of those summers where, like Liverpool last year, and I don't mean to say that they're going to have the same results, where it might be no harm for a year of consolidation and having not to have to reinvent the team. And like when you've got such a good coach who's had such a big impact and a specific style of play, sometimes the longer a team is there. Now, they are getting rid of some players, and I do think one or two will come in between now and the end of the transfer window, but I don't necessarily know if they'll be starters. And maybe that's okay, and it's a consolidation year, and I don't think there'll be a significant drop-off. I think Villa will be in the same kind of conversations this season with the Newcastles, Brightons. I think Forest are going to fall off a little bit, and then which of the last year's top 5 do drop off, because one or two of them will. Newcastle, I would say, are certainly in that scenario. This is an interesting game, though. Newcastle and Villa never have close games. One of them hammer each other.
Right.
And it's bizarre. I think the 2 games last year were both 4-0 or something like that. I don't have it to hand. Maybe the Villa game was 3-0. The Villa win, and Newcastle beat them 4-0. An absolute tonking early in the season. They just seem to have these games. Remember the first game of the season a few years ago where Alex Ferguson said Villa were the team to watch after they got absolutely hammered to Newcastle? It became a famous viral clip because they obviously did go and get into the Champions League that season. So there's something about these two teams. There's a little bit of rivalry between them as well. I think they're both the two teams that are trying to get to that, holy grail of the top 6. No matter how many times they finish in the top 6 in a row, people will still, like Ian. Let me get this off my chest. Ian Wright yesterday on the return of Stick to Football had he was talking about Arsenal, and he made a big point. He was saying that Arsenal haven't lost a game against the top 6, he said, not big 6. They haven't lost a game against the top 6 in 2 years. It's the likes of Villa that we struggle against. Well, Villa have finished in the top 6 for the last 2 years, and 2 teams that he was including there have not, in Manchester United and Spurs. So I really, really would love us to start taking football on its actual merits instead of the narratives that we try to create. If Spurs are one of the big 6 clubs, but they're crap, then beating them is of no consequence. Do you know what I mean? Like we have to start. Anyway, never mind. That's off my chest
Typical
now.
Villa fan.
That's off my chest now.
Yeah.
But Newcastle and Villa are kind of there's a rivalry and a kindred spirit that's sort of mixed in together. The idea, I would see that Isak issue very much from Newcastle's point of view of we've decided to just come and get your big player. And why aren't you selling him? I don't understand. Who do you think you are? And we often face that where the big team comes in and there's a sort of a sense of the lower team has a certain level of arrogance to keep the player that is contracted them and that they have signed and bought and demand value for or would like to stay. So, anyway, that's Newcastle and Villa.
Yeah, you're right. 4-1 Villa last in April in the second game.
Yeah, and 4-0, wasn't it?
3-0 in the
3-0, okay.
James on Stephen's Day, actually.
Do you think it's exactly the right or exactly the wrong time to be playing Newcastle? Because they could either come out all guns blazing, wanting to prove people wrong, or they're just going to be so all over the place and scattered that, I think it's going to be a
Well, I'll take them
so,
without Isak or his replacement, where they spent 100 million. So in that way, just in terms of like sheer, we're getting them when they're not at their best.
Yeah.
You take that, but I do agree with you. You just genuinely don't know what. Like, they're still going to be a good team.
Yeah.
Like, they're still going to have that unbelievable midfield. And don't forget, like, Bruno Guimaraes probably wasn't at his best last year. There's no reason to think that he kind of doesn't go back up to the level. And have they had Bruno and Tonali both at their best at the same time? Not sure they have, you know. Like Bruno was
like the Shane
a
Walsh, Damien Comer
disgrace
thing.
in that Villa game in April. Like, honestly, he should have been sent off 5 times. Like, he was just, I think I kind of got the impression he was trying to be sent off because he just wasn't up for it that day. And the ref was just like letting him away with it, you know. But it was one of those performances where you're like, whoa, this is not worthy of a great player, you know. And then Tonali, and obviously you've got Joelinton as well. Like, that's arguably the strongest midfield in the Premier League when they're all at their best, you know. So, but who are, like, they've obviously bought in Elanga, they've got Barnes, they're bringing in Ramsey, and they've got Gordon, right? All same player, I would say. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like you can play fine, you can play on both sides, and maybe Jacob Murphy drops out or whatever, but like, they need that number 9 for all of that to work around, because that's a brilliant supporting cast.
It's the focal
for a
point.
striker,
Yeah.
but who is the striker?
They've also haven't won in pre-season, which I know doesn't necessarily matter, but like,
Yeah.
they need to show a bit of form.
They played Spurs in that kind of game that was kind of overshadowed by Son leaving, and that was Son's final game.
Yeah.
We were playing Newcastle in pre-season, and all I remember just watching the game is that they're still I'm going to say an aggressive team, throwing in lots of tackles, kind of getting away with a lot of them as well. So that's, I think that'll be a continuing theme for
Would you
Newcastle.
wonder about their defence as well over the course of a season? Like, you know, you kind of feel like, you know, Dan Byrne had his purple patch year from, like, and fair play to him. Like, I mean, you shouldn't dismiss that either. That's in him. But he hasn't played at that level for the rest of his career. You know, and Trippier's older. You know, they've got a couple of young players in there, like Hall and stuff like that, you know, maybe they're okay, but I don't know if that needs a little bit of refreshment as well.
They've definitely pushed
Refreshing,
like,
not refreshment.
Like 5 years ago, they were refreshment. Yeah, they were 12th, then they were 11th, and then the last 3 seasons they've been 4th, 7th, 5th. They're bouncing around that kind of area. They do need to push on a little
Champions
bit.
League as well.
Champions League.
Yeah, did something big happen a few years ago that meant they got really good?
Yeah, I know. I wonder what the
But
connection was.
they haven't had to
Haven't
spend,
seen all the
been
money,
able
yeah.
to spend it since. Yeah.
It's true. And everyone's turning them down as well. All the names that were linked, Ekitike, Mbumo, Pedro, Sheshko, were all linked with Newcastle and just said, no, I'll head somewhere else. But it's been a tough enough summer for them.
I don't know. I wonder, can we, as kind of like, you know, armchair journalists and stuff, sometimes over-egg how much this Isak thing is affecting them as a club and as a dressing room and so on. Footballers shake these things off. They're used to people coming and going. They'll almost see Isak as gone now, even though the saga is still playing out. It's not playing out in the dressing room. He's not there.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so I wondered, like, I think it could be a little bit overblown, the whole they're in disarray. You know, I'd imagine that in the dressing room it's fairly settled.
Obviously, the big game of the weekend is Manchester United Arsenal, which we've kind of touched on a lot during the week, and some of the fixtures really stand out. Villa Newcastle obviously being another one. Like the Forest Brentford game obviously takes an Irish eye because it's Keith Andrews' first game in charge of Brentford. It's such a tough task for him. If you lose your manager, your captain, your best player in Mbumo, and likely your next best player in Visa if he leaves as well, it's not an easy place for him to start. I just hope he gets the leeway maybe if results start going badly.
I feel like they've made a commitment to picking someone who maybe people didn't expect, so they were going to have to give him. They can't panic if he falls at the very first hurdle. That would just be unrealistic, and I don't think that's what Brentford are intending to do. But you just hope for kind of his sake and for his team's sake that they can get a bit of early momentum, even if it's not a win, even if it's a nice draw, just for the first few games to settle into. But he's been there for a while at Brentford. You know, he knows the team very well. It's not like they're starting from complete scratch or anything.
Yeah, I agree. I think that we talked about first manager sacked on the preview that we did last night, and you know, his name was mentioned, and I completely dismissed it because I think that, like, Nuno, who he's up against this week, or Fark, or
Pereira
someone else that's been there a while, that the club knows and are giving another go to, and if it starts awfully, are going to pull the trigger. Whereas I don't think Brentford are going to do that. Brentford are at the start of a project. They're looking at something. They're going to see how it plays out. It might be a disaster and they might have to call a day in it. But I still think it won't be early in the year. You know, I think he will get a little bit of leeway. This isn't the worst fixture in the world. I think Forest, I'd be very surprised if Forest finish in the top half this season.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. I think they did okay to hold on to most of their players, bar Elanga. I don't think Chris Wood is going to, again, talking about Dan Byrne a few minutes ago, like Chris Wood's never going to have that kind of season again. He'll score goals. He's always going to score goals, but I don't think he's going to be like best striker in the Premiership level again. Premiership. And, you know, I just think that the form they showed over the end of last season, they really fell away. I think their level, the Premier League is so good. If you look them player to player, would you have them below Crystal Palace? I like Palace's 11 more. And Palace are right in that mid-level where you look at like even Fulham, you know, those types of teams. I'm not sure they're any better than them. You know, so I think that what they did was massively overachieve last year with a manager who I don't think will make them better as he goes on. I think he'll have that immediate impact of getting them organised and everything else. And then I think, and also, basket case owner.
Yeah.
You know, like anything is liable to happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They go on a bad run of form, suddenly they sack the manager, or, you know, when they should, you know, anything could happen. So I think Forest could be there for the taking. City Ground's not going to be easy to go to, but if they get a point straight up away from home to a team that are in Europe, suddenly I think things will relax a little bit.
Yeah, and Palace, like, a lot will depend on Gay and Eze and their future, I suppose. Like, they started very poorly last season and then were unbelievable after New Year's Day, Palace. So if they could just be consistent and keep that going for a full season, then there's no reason why.
And they need like players like Sarr, who is such a hit and miss player, but he's been hitting way more than he used to.
Yeah.
You know, and could that turn into that kind of consistent purple patch season for him? And then you put him with Macheda, and maybe they keep Eze. I wouldn't rule it out, you know.
Yeah.
I think Gay is gone.
Oh, I think they'll keep Eze.
Gay is gone. I think they're in trouble if they keep Gay because he's basically told them he's going for free in the summer, so I think they cash in on him. But again, I just think that manager is so good. I think he'll foster that kind of leader in defence that is needed, regardless of you know, talent levels or.
It's kind of
Wharton. They have to keep Wharton.
It's like what you were saying earlier about big clubs coming in and saying, "I'll have your star player, thank you." I guess if you're Palace now, you're looking. You know, you could go to Tottenham, as we're trying to push to get Eze, but you know, Palace have won a trophy last year, same as we did, and then followed it up by actually winning the Community Shield, where Spurs failed to win, even just on a very basic level. You can win trophies at Palace, or you can win trophies anywhere. You don't necessarily have to go to a big six club, and I don't think Daniel Levy is going to. It's going to be Eze or Savinho.
Yeah.
He's not going to go for both.
And you got someone like Dean Henderson, right? You look at him and you think, like, I wouldn't be his biggest fan. I wouldn't be mad into his character, but I also wouldn't be, say, Jordan Pickford's biggest fan. But he suits Everton and
that's
he suits the club he's at. And Henderson like really suits Palace. You know what I mean? And that's exactly the type of player they need, a kind of a hateable, like, you know, character in goals and lead from there, you know. So, yeah, I don't know. I like Palace this season.
Yeah, I have to agree, in fairness. Should we finish on Man United, Arsenal? Like, look, it's been an interesting summer for both. United have obviously attracted somehow some quality players, Mateus Cunha and Brian Mbeumo, and Diego Leon is a wing back as well, and Benjamin Šeško. Look, they're going to need a couple more. You'd imagine Carlos Baliba is the name that's been linked as the central defensive midfielder, and probably need a goalkeeper too, let's be honest. So they're not the finished article yet. And then Arsenal, a lot depends on Gyökeres and how many goals he can get in his first season potentially. They were crying out for that number 9. They've got him. No excuses now for Arteta. So how are we feeling about these two clubs respectively, I suppose, ahead of Sunday?
I always, when I look at United, Arsenal, it always seems to me it's destined for a 2-2 draw. I don't know why. There just seems like that kind of fixture.
They prefer record Arsenal at Old Trafford, actually.
It's still psychological,
yeah.
I suppose. I would fancy United just on the basis of it being at Old Trafford. It's the first game of the season, I think, but I don't fancy them over the course of the season to be better than Arsenal.
No, I don't either, and I don't think they're going to be better this Sunday either. Arsenal, much more settled team. I think someone like Zubimendi is going to come in and immediately settle and be a massive upgrade on the various different ways they play. But let's say Thomas Partey for now, you know, and I think that's going to make Declan Rice far more impactful player, and hopefully from their point of view and from, I think, football's point of view, get Odegaard a little bit back more into form. Saka's going to be fully fit. I'm not as convinced about Gyökeres, whatever you pronounce his name. But we'll see. Like, I mean, there's no reason to think that he won't do anything. But again, I'm always just wary of small sample sizes, especially for a player of his age. But great. He's exactly who they probably should have bought, and let's see if it works. But they'll have Havertz back as well, which will be an improvement on their team. Their defence is rock solid. I kind of think Arsenal are just ready to hit the ground running this year. Whereas even if United are going to improve, and I'm not overly convinced of it because I just not 100% sure that manager has made them any better over, and I don't believe
Keith Tracy thinks he'll be the first sacked.
I think, Shane, at some point you have to say, when did we ever in the history of football have a manager that can't be judged until he has 11 players that he brought in himself? You know what I mean? That can't work with what he has. And obviously last season was an utter disaster, but he was given like unbelievable leeway. Now, I'm not absolutely convinced that he's not going to turn it around. I've seen absolutely no evidence of it so far.
Yeah.
So because of that, I just think you have to wait. You have to see, like, if this is now, they've transformed the attack, if nothing else. If this doesn't work, are those good signings? I think Šeško is, right? But Mbeumo and Kuna, like, they're the best players for teams that are, not very good by what Manchester United want to be. Like when you made the point that like what Arsenal have brought in is like, the cream of the crop from good. I just don't. I'm just not buying it that they are automatic game changers. Now they could be, but yeah, I'm yet to see it, and I certainly don't think that it will click straight away.
Yeah,
it's a completely new attack, so I think Arsenal are in a great position for this weekend, and then let's see what happens come late August, early September.
Do you agree with Keith Tracy?
No, I think he will get that leeway a little bit again, in this season. Like the Europa League final was very concerning because I was obviously at the game in Bilbao, and it was one of those games where you thought, right, you can excuse the league because it's all been focused on this, and he's going to put in a massive performance. They're going to beat Spurs 2-0. Just didn't happen. Neither team showed up, in fairness. It was a crap game of football.
Oh, it was the worst game of football to watch ever, and it was the best day of my life.
Yeah, that's fair. I can understand that. But like, I think he has a bit of leverage. Players seem to like him. I know this counts for naught, but there seems to be more of a feel-good factor. They're getting rid of some of the deadwood in Sancho and Anthony and Rashford and whoever else. There's plenty of
Garnacho, who 12 months ago you were thinking of the future of the club. Gave up on him pretty quickly. Well,
he gave up on himself as well. The attitude issues around the Europa League final kind of existed there in the strops, and they just,
I actually do think that of all teams that needed a full-on attitude clear-out, even if you are sacrificing good players that you could probably turn around in future, at United maybe you cut before you would at other clubs.
Yeah.
Because it needed a transformation. 100%.
Like, look, it's going to be interesting to see. I don't think he'll be the first manager sacked. I think United could potentially finish as high as 5th. Which would be a remarkable turnaround from last season.
What's that potential based on, though? Sorry, I really do mean this I'm not trying to rise you. I'm not. You're Manchester United.
Yeah.
I really feel like that's why you think they're going to finish 5th. I don't see the level of player there that's going to get you to that position. You can't just bring in 3 attacking players and have no basis.
No.
Like, who's creating for them?
This is unlike the Liverpool argument where I think Liverpool will win the league regardless of whether they bring in Gay or Isak.
Okay.
But I think United would only get 5th or 6th, say, if they bring in a Abaliba and a goalkeeper, say, for example. It's certainly those attacking signings are good on paper. Let's see how they turn out, but they're not the problem positions. Onana's a serious problem.
It, and striker was, I think.
It was, in fairness. Yeah. And hopefully Šeško works out for United.
Massive upgrade there, even if Šeško's not that good.
Yeah, true. Can only be up. But look, that 5th or 6th is an absolute max if they get those players in. But that's a big if. I think
they have been buying players for years.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And every year is a transformation, and every year is like, we're bringing in this guy, and he's going to be, Amrat's going to change things, like, you know what I mean. And these guys that like don't do anything.
Yeah,
so you have to think that's going to happen with at least half of them here.
Yeah. And look, that's also a United team that doesn't have the distraction of European football or anything else as well. If they can't get to 5th or 6th, having brought in those extra maybe a couple of signings,
money they spent,
someone will have to go. Probably.
Well, that's been the last few seasons as well, and it's been getting progressively more kind of you're going in the wrong direction, progressing this, and I kind of have no leg to stand on here.
Who's right wing back for United this year?
You could have Dallo, I suppose. Yeah.
Who, like,
Ahmad has
I
been
quite like
involved on the
Dallo,
side,
but
yeah.
the whole point is he's not Amram's player and
No.
he's not set up. Why didn't they?
Mazraoui has done. Well, he's kind of the other side as well mainly.
Yeah.
But
So why haven't they done? Why haven't they built? Like, I wonder, is there still a conflict between Manchester United and the marquee signing and the marketing of the club versus the football side and what the manager wants? Why haven't they built Ruben Amorim's team and the whole, he needs his players in that we're constantly hearing, he can't work with what he has? Why haven't they bought in why didn't they buy the 2 best wing backs in the world and nobody else
it's true.
this summer? You know, and start there. See if that improves things with the middling players you have elsewhere, and then add to that as we go on. That's surely how you build the foundation. You don't buy forwards and hope that everything gets sorted.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose that was the issue with Ten Hag, wasn't it? They bought all the players he liked at Ajax, and then none of them worked out.
Well, maybe someone else should make the decisions, but it's like, what type of player do you want? And don't just buy everyone from Sporting Lisbon. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Gyökeres didn't. I presume they showed interest in Gyökeres, but he probably wisely went to Arsenal in the end. Folks, great stuff. Final one standing this weekend. So you're going with Tottenham.
come on, Spurs.
One Spurs.
I rarely cheer for
Go
them.
on, Spurs, and you've won for Leeds.
I've gone for Leeds.
That's a brave one.
Very
Everton. There's a lot of kind of excitement about Everton. as
Maybe
well.
I'm too optimistic. I'm flying off to Lanzarote on Sunday, so I'll be watching all of these matches.
An Irish bar.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. So I'll be watching all of these matches with the beach to my back.
Lovely.
So
What she's saying is she won't be here next week to face the music
Yep.
when Leeds lose 4-0.
Either way.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad it's not like Kathleen McNamee last year, who was brought in late and handed a load of points. Wasn't that the case? Well, don't mention the war.
She was given average points for 1 week.
That's
it wasn't
okay.
the end of the world.
That's fair enough. No, it was the right
It
decision.
didn't stop me winning who you got by miles.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot you were the victor last season. Yeah. Fair play. I think I was top 3. I think I might have finished. Yeah, Will was second, was it? And I was third.
No
I was
idea.
there or thereabouts.
No idea. I won by more. There was more, but there was the same amount of points between first and second as there was between second and last.
Yeah, fair.
Oh.
Mad. You can join the Off the Ball League by the way, and final one standing. Download the William Hill app. Use the code Off the Ball. Or there's a link in our socials as well to our final one standing, and use that code Off the Ball. Final one standing on Off the Ball, brought to you by William Hill. Download the app and play it today. Over 18s only. See gamblingcare.ie. See you soon.
The Final One Standing by William Hill on Off the Ball. Download the app and play today. 18 plus gamblingcare.ie.